Hey guys, I'm Deany Dormer. Thanks so much for joining me. I wanted to start off with a quick video. Hopefully you guys can see this while we're waiting for a couple more people to join. This is a video a little bit about virtual events and what Executive Events is doing with that. It's a 1-minute YouTube video, so let me see if I can share this with you all now, and then we'll go into the actual presentation.
Live streaming has become a part of everyday life since social distancing has made it all but impossible to get together in the ways we're used to. Products like Zoom and Webinar are great but are limited. Executive Events has been a leader in live event production for many years, combining cameras, graphics, slides, videos, websites, and sound files into a smooth, informative show that entertains and communicates to the audience. Executive Events can help bring those elements associated with live events to your streaming event. We can incorporate a group from Zoom as a panel, pulling them into our virtual podium for their speeches. The panel can discuss a topic as a group within the Zoom. Meanwhile, slides and videos can be played over their discussions, much like a production of a news program. All the effects we've come to expect, picture-in-picture, lower thirds, split screens, all played to the audience that can watch from any platform like Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or any URL placed on any website. We offer production in our studio or on location. You can add a secure password for extra protection, or we can build a custom website and even a chat room for everyone to share their thoughts. Live streaming from Executive Events.
All right, so that's a little video that we had done to start introducing people into what are the capabilities of virtual events. So hopefully you guys were able to hear that well. I know with certain platforms it is a little, different videos play a little bit differently. So hopefully that kind of whets your appetite a little bit for what we're gonna talk about. So again, I'm Deany Dormer. I'm the owner and event strategist for Executive Events. We're based out of Norfolk, Virginia. We just had our 6-year anniversary last month in July. So we're really happy to be working in Hampton Roads and beyond. We do the majority of our events we do here in Hampton Roads, but we've done about 20% of our events have been out of state and out of city. Oh, maybe more than that if I have to say just Virginia, huh, Heather? We do some events all around Virginia and then a few out of state. So what we normally do, what's big about Executive Events, what makes us a little bit different than your normal event planning type company, is that we kind of look at the business behind the event. So what are you trying to get out of the events that you're doing? Making sure that you're getting a return on objective, making sure that you're making events part of your marketing strategy, right? So keep that in mind as we go through this. All right, so ready for virtual events. All right, here's a quick agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. What is a virtual event? I put this on here because I think it's important. The word virtual event is being used interchangeably with a lot of other things, so we want to kind of get clear on what that is. Pros and cons of doing a virtual event. Then deciding to host. Is it something that you can take maybe an in-person event that you did and determine whether you should do it virtually, or if you should put that money into a different marketing platform, or if you should cancel or wait. Can those goals be met virtually? We'll talk a little bit about the different platforms based on what types of events you want to do. Different platforms work best with different types of events. And then we'll talk about lead generation and engaging attendees. Sound good? Thumbs up? Perfect, wonderful. All right, so first thing, what is a virtual event? So like I said, this term gets used interchangeably a lot. There is a difference between a virtual event and live streaming. So a virtual event is an event that is an online event that involves people interacting in a virtual environment on the web rather than in a physical location, right? But a lot of people, when they say virtual event, they may be thinking of live streaming. So live streaming is the camera set up for an in-person event that's already going on. And we're just a passive observer of that live event, of that live streaming for that in-person event. With a virtual event, it's completely different. It's not necessarily you just sitting there being a passive watcher or a passive person, audience member for this event. A virtual event needs to feel to the user like a real event. There needs to be a lobby potentially when you come in. You meet your event concierge. They tell you what's going to happen for the day. Here's your agenda. Here's how to go in and out of the different rooms. There needs to be a schedule. There needs to be breakouts. With a virtual event also, since you're not a passive participant, you want all your virtual attendees to be active. So you want them to interact with the speakers. Is there a way for your virtual event participants to ask questions to the speakers? They may be interested in networking, different things like that. So it's not just them sitting back and watching something that's going on in person. That's live streaming. The event needs to be a whole event encompassed just for that virtual participant so that they are completely engaged in what you have to say and that they have some say in the flow of the event. Now, with a hybrid event, that is just a combination of a virtual or live streamed event and an in-person event. So we just did an event, a hybrid event a week and a half ago, actually, at the main downtown, but we streamed in different components of the event. So we had like a keynote speaker that was put up on the screen that was like a virtually pumped in. We also had different people that, it was an awards show, so if you couldn't accept your award, we had the capabilities so that you could accept it there as well on screen. And so that there was a lot of different components so that we could have that in-person thing, and we had things for the people that are in person, and then we had things for the people that were virtual as well. So they were also active participants. Make sense? Cool. All right. So what are the benefits? So we're going to talk a little bit about the pros and cons. So benefits of a virtual event. So it's global, right? You can pretty much reach attendees anywhere that there's a good internet connection. And the really interesting thing that we're seeing is that companies are seeing a big increase in the number of attendees that are participating in a virtual event versus when we compare it to the exact same in-person event. It's more convenient, different things like that, but we're definitely seeing an increase in attendees for similar events when we compare year over year. Speakers sometimes were an issue, schedules and flights, and we've done things where we've had to book flights for several speakers. In EO, they brought in someone from Australia, different things like that. All those travel expenses are take a toll on your budget. So that's one of the things that you won't have to worry about with a virtual event. Some of those expenses can be reduced when it comes to travel. Obviously, you're reducing your carbon footprint. There's ways to reduce your carbon footprint with in-person events, but virtual events kind of take the cake when it comes to being green and sustainable. You're not having to wash dishes. You're not having to throw away napkins. You're not having to do all these things that you would do in person that you now not having to do because they're virtual. And then the location, it's your couch or your laptop at home, right? So the location is literally convenient to all attendees. So that's a big plus. And that's why we're seeing the increase, the uptick in people being able to attend these virtual events because they can do it on their own time. They're in their homes. They can be where they're most comfortable, right? So those are a few of the benefits. There's a lot of the benefits, but I think that those are some of the top ones. Now, here are some of the challenges. This is a big one. I put this one right at the top. Engagement, the attention span. So executive events, we do a lot of long format events. So think conferences that can sometimes span multiple days. We've had conferences that are a week long, right? Our shortest event is probably maybe an award ceremony or a dinner or a banquet, that sort of thing. But we're used to doing these long format conferences. With virtual events, that's a big no-no. You cannot have someone sit for 8 hours like we would have them sit at a conference, like a full day conference, like something like an Inspiro that EO is putting on or anything like that. We cannot have them sit for 8 hours. If you try to do that, the people are not going to be happy. So the sweet spot that we're finding is around 3 hours or less. So instead of having that 8-hour day, we now cut it down to 3 hours, right? And this is including breaks. So at the beginning, you'll let people know when there's going to be breaks. Now we have to incentivize them to come back from the breaks and things like that. That goes along with your strategic plan. But if you're doing a long format conference on a virtual event or a similar type event, 3 hours max at a time. Then come back and do it the next day, another 2 to 3 hours, that sort of thing. But never plan for a full 8-hour or longer day. Virtual does not support that. Content, right? That is the whole event. So make sure that your content is relevant, make sure it's powerful, make sure it's what they want to hear, because people are coming for that education. Technology, like we just saw, make sure that you are using the technology that goes along with the type of event. Don't expect to have 300 people on a Google Hangout, potentially, right? So figure out which one works best for the type of audience that you're going to have, and make sure you test that out. And then different time zones. This is a question that comes up a lot, actually. What to do if half of your participants are in a completely different time zone. You just have to pick, really. The second answer to that question is to do different special things for the different participants in the different time zones. So maybe your whole conference cannot be in the time zone for, an Asian country, but maybe you can do a fun surprise concert when they're awake or things like that. Otherwise, you're just really looking to compromise and kind of stay in the middle with your time zones. So be mindful of that when you're setting the time. It's not just you, right? So now we're virtual. We have to think about who else is going to be on the call. So you might have to be a little bit later or get up a little bit earlier to appease your attendees that are not in your state or country. All right, so now, this is trying to determine if you should host a virtual event. And the big part of this is, what is your goal? This is the big thing. What is your objective and goals? So what purpose will it serve your company? And what will attendees get out of participating? The big thing is with the goals here. So your goals also must be measurable. It can't just be, oh, we just want brand awareness, right? So what does brand awareness mean? We have to define that. So an objective of brand awareness could be something like getting more media coverage. So you want the media to cover you more so that you're more exposed. So now, what metric do we use to track that? And that would be number of media placements, right? So if we want to increase our social media presence, number of social media impressions or engagement there, but we can't just say it, we have to start tracking these things. And then if I know that I need to increase my media presence, then I can put things in place. I need to reach out to X number of reporters, I need to send out these press releases, and then I'm tracking it. I've sent out 10 of these press releases, I got one reporter that is going to come and cover my event. You can kind of like see how that plays out. You can look at the impressions that they have for the publication and see where your numbers are. So always be tracking those things. All right, top reasons to do an event. These are the biggest top reasons. There's lots of different reasons, but we're looking at B2B events here. So generating leads is absolutely number one. When people look to do events from the business to business side, we want to increase sales, we want to generate leads. Number two is brand awareness. When someone says the name of your company or it says the name of something that you do, like digital marketing, we want to think Array Digital automatically. So that brand awareness, who do you think of, who's top of mind? And getting people to engage with you and attend your event gives you a chance to teach them more about you and gets them to know, trust, and like you, right? Engaging prospects and educating prospects fall a little bit further down. But an educated prospect is someone who is more willing to buy from you because now they know why they need your product and they know that you can supply it to them and what need it will serve of theirs. Now, the big thing here when deciding to put on an event is to figure out what your attendees want, right? So it's not all about us. It's not a popularity contest. So if I'm to throw my own event, and maybe it would just be, you know, an event with stars and rainbows and unicorns, because that's what I like. But if I'm trying to attract clients that to my product or to my service, I have to figure out what it is that they like. So this is when we can even decide the type of event. What is it that my ideal customer wants to get out of my event? And then I can be able to supply them with that thing that they really want. So networking and education, 91% is what we're finding. Those two take the cake. Most people go to events for networking and education, hands down. And then the other ones are entertainment, recognition, and then there's several others that kind of like fall down like the end of that bell curve. But networking and education. So are you able to, on the front end, let your participants know, or your potential attendees know, that networking is going to be an option for them and why they should attend this event, because they're going to get this and this and this type of networking? Are you going to pair them in different rooms with people that they're looking for? We've talked about color coding attendees before so that they know that, okay, these are the people that I want to talk to. These are the head companies, these are their marketers, these are the advertisers here, so they know who they're looking for. They can look on a badge or on a lanyard and see what kind of industry that person is. So we've done that in person, right? So doing that virtually would be your selected breakout rooms, having the attendee information in advance so that you know what type of attendee they are, possibly their job title, and then what they're looking for. So specific industries, you know that this job title is looking for this job title, so you can kind of match them up easily like that. Education. There is a lot of vagueness that goes on when we talk about what is going to happen at our event. We just say a word and we expect people to know. But don't be scared to go into a little bit more of detail with people. You're not going to get too long-winded. If they want to stop reading, they will, right? But give more information than you think is necessary. Really push it out there and really tell them what they're going to get out of the event. I really can't stress this enough, because people just put, you know, a couple of lines and it's like, okay, there, that's good enough. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know, that sort of thing. And it's like, you have to put it down to a 5 grade level type thing, and over enunciate, tell them what you're going to be delivering for them, please. So don't be afraid to be long-winded here. Someone should know, if the event is for them, what does the ideal attendee look like? And what am I going to get out of it? Why should I give you my most valuable currency, which is time, right? What am I getting? What's in it for me? That WIFM, right? So what's in it for me? What am I going to learn? Be detailed as possible with that. Entertainment, recognition, those are our awards ceremonies. I love doing awards ceremonies. They're so fun. All right, let's keep going. So this is a little bit about how to deliver on those goals. So we just talked about if someone looks at networking. So we talked about networking education. So these breakout rooms, we've done stuff where we've had several breakout rooms, like up to 6 different breakout rooms, but we wanted them to be, you know, small people in a small number of people in the actual breakout room so that they can get value from each other when they're talking to each other, right? Another one is our chat rooms. That's a little less formal. It can be, depending on how you set it up. Your sponsor halls. This is where the sponsors of your event are being able to get what they need from your attendees out of that event. Exhibitor halls, where people can buy things. Gamification is really, really big. I'll explain a little bit about gamification. This is where How is telling you about incentivizing someone to come back from a break. Well, this is where you can earn points. So basically like playing a video game. So when you show up to the event on time, you may earn a certain number of points. If you come back from break on time, you can earn a certain number of points. If you chat or if you engage with someone, with the speaker, you can also gain a point. Whatever you feel is necessary or whatever you want to engage these attendees on, you can give them points for doing that specific thing. So that's where the gamification comes in. And then they can use those points to go to your store within your event app and purchase things. So purchase whatever tchotchkes you have in there with potentially your name on it or whatever thing you think would be valuable to an attendee. So that's how we kind of gamify things. And it's really fun and people really, really love it because it's literally like combining a conference and this heavy, heavy learning with this very easy, like playing games and things like that. So gamification we have found is a really fun addition for the attendees.
You know, Deany,
yes.
If I could interrupt, I think that's a really good idea. I've never seen that in practice, but that would be a good idea for a virtual or for an in-person event.
Yeah, the gamification.
That's neat.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, if I know I'm going to get another point, you know, and I want to go get that, you know, company water bottle or whatever's in there, and, you know, just for coming back from break on time, then I'm going to do it, you know? So, and it just makes it fun. And so now I'm even more engaged because I'm like, ooh, I'm getting points, you know? So it's just another way to engage those attendees.
Cool.
So then you have your surveys and polls. We've seen these types of things. File sharing. This is sharing your PDFs, if there's workbooks or anything like that, anything that you need to follow along with your speaker. Some speakers give away things at the end of their talk. So file sharing, and then Q&A, like how we have a chat here in Zoom that you guys can utilize, please, if you have questions. Go ahead and put it in the chat. So then you're engaged as well, and I will answer all those questions also. All right, types of virtual events. There's so much that we can do virtual. We just have to be creative. You would think that you couldn't do like a concert or things like that, but look at what we've seen happening. There has been concerts and fun things that are going on virtually. So this is just a short list here: meetings, webinars, conferences, learning events. But if you're very creative, there's a good maybe 70, 80% of events that you can possibly do virtually, or at least a portion of it virtually. So be creative. Sit down with someone like, you know, like Heather, me from Executive Events, and let's brainstorm and see how you can be creative to turn your in-person event virtual, or come up with a brand new virtual event now that you know what you need to be doing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about platforms. This is the sticky part. All right, so the platforms for your event. What to consider. You need to figure out what type of event you're doing, how robust it needs to be. If you need a full event management platform, that's something more for your bigger events like conferences and trade shows. So this is when I was talking about like having a virtual lobby, right? Where you come into the lobby. Now and I'll show you an example of this. Then you know you can go into the auditorium and you can listen to a speaker, or I can go shopping and go use my points. So this is full event management. We have maybe like a sound guy. We have 3 cameras we fly the speaker in, or we go to him and we actually set up the cameras. Maybe it's just him, right? Or maybe it's a hybrid event with just a few people watching. But we have, you know, a camera switcher, and we're doing different angles, and we're throwing confetti, and we're, you know, doing the whole 9. So that's full event platform. Something smaller that, you know, most of us are familiar with is webinars. You can do your PowerPoint presentations, present videos, share files. Meetings, that's something more like how we're doing now with the Zoom, you know, kind of / webinar. And then your real-time observation of an in-person event, which is your live streaming. So let's discuss a little bit of these. So the first one is your full event management platform, right? So here are some of the ones that we recommend if you're going to do a conference or something like a trade show. Meeting Play is one of our partners, and we highly recommend them. They have a very robust features. They have so many things that you can do with on their platform. In Expo is another one, Intrado. Cvent is one that I used for a number of years. They have a lot of capabilities, and there's a lot of things that you can do with Cvent. And then Expo Pass is another one. So I talked about virtual lobbies. We can have sponsor rooms. We talked about the gamification, mobile app integration. They will customize it for you for a price, right? So you can pay a little bit more for customization. And we have API integration. This is, you know, embedding something on your website or linking other outside applications to this. And then things like on-demand playback. So the next one we talked about, oh, here is actually what it can look like. I just put an example. So this is kind of what you would see when you come in to one of those applications that we spoke about, like the Meeting Play. So you come into this virtual world. So see the difference here when I was talking about the difference between live streaming and it's just you just being a passive participant and watching versus this virtual event. Right? You're coming into this lobby. There's a concierge that greets you and shows you that this is the auditorium. This is the exhibit hall. This is where you go to see the sponsors and things like that. You can even have a brand ambassador. So along the gamification lines where I have someone at the in-person event that can have their cell phone or tablet walking through the event, and I can tap into that phone or that tablet to go and experience the event just like if I was actually there. And I think we're going to start seeing more of this once we get back to a little bit more in-person events. Virtual is not going anywhere, so we're going to see a lot of hybrid events. Right? So the people that want to be there in person, it's going to be much smaller, but the virtual audience is still going to be huge. So if I have a chance to tap into somebody's tablet that's a brand ambassador and walk through the actual event and things, that's pretty neat with the gamification. But as you can see, this is a world that I can now click through. I'm an active participant going through. I want to go to the auditorium. Now I don't want to go to the auditorium. I want to leave and go into the lounge, or I want to go into a breakout room and see who's there, things like that. There's all these other options. So it's not just being a passive participant. That's why I stress that live streaming is completely different. This is one of our partners, Meeting Play. They have robust software here for you. You can see how you can kind of like toggle through your dashboard, your agenda, do different downloads, social feeds. There's things that have been maybe played throughout the day and now they're recorded right here for you to play back. So there's a lot that you can do with that. Here's a little bit of like a mock-up of how it could look for your virtual event. This is how it would look on a desktop versus your tablet and your phone because, you know, mobile, we're all walking around. We're looking at our phones and tablets. So this is kind of a little bit more about how you come into that virtual lobby. You can click on your play to join the conference and things like that. So it's a quick example of what that can look like for you. So next step down is just your virtual presentation or seminar, right? So this is basically your webinars. Top ones that we've found is Zoom. Zoom is doing a lot of great things, and I can't recommend Zoom enough. They have really stepped up their game, and so Zoom is still a top one in our book. Now, if you're going to do something big like a conference, you need a little bit more, a more robust platform. But for a typical type meeting with some fancy features, Zoom is really, really good. GoToWebinar and Webinar Jam are two that have been around for a long time. Webinar Jam has the ability to you can record and then you can play back that webinar at different times to where it looks live. People can say, yes, I want to do it at 8 o'clock when somebody else in New Zealand says, I want to do it at 3 o'clock. And it looks live and it allows you to jump on the end to just join for the chat. So I could record all this beforehand, and I know when I just need to go and do the Q&A portion. So it kind of gives you some automation there. And I'm sure a few of these other webinar platforms have picked that up as well, but Webinar Jam was famous for that back in the day. Cisco WebEx is another big one. Sharing files, presenting videos, you have chat rooms, Q&A, we can do chat right here. So continue to put your questions in the chat. Let's step down again. After webinars, we have our general meetings. Zoom, still at the top here. Google Hangouts have been big. GoToMeeting, Skype. Skype has had some connectivity issues that I believe that allowed Zoom to surpass them. It got to a point where it wasn't as reliable for everyone. And so I saw people kind of take a jump from Skype, and now Zoom has really dominated that market, and it's affordable. Same thing as your webinars, presenting videos, sharing files, chat rooms, Q&A, things similar to that. And then here's your live streaming. So this is your real live streaming. And this is where your social comes in big, right? There's other platforms you can live stream on, but the shiny balls here are your social media. So your Instagrams, your Facebook, YouTube, even Twitch, which is a big gaming simulation type stuff where you can sit and watch people play video games. But they're using that technology for a lot of other things. Then you have your API integration again with a lot of these things that you can put it on your site, depending on which platform you use. So those are really big as well. All righty, let's talk a little bit about generating leads. Let me look at my time. All right, we're good. So generating leads from a virtual event. We all want to make more sales for our business. This is B2B right here. So number one thing is to figure out who your customer is. This sounds very simple, but I always like to reiterate it because when we do consultations for people for doing an event, it's very surprising that I still talk to seasoned business owners that say, everyone can come to my event, right? This is not a popularity contest. Yes, we all want to feel like we have 1 million friends and followers and things like that, but you cannot market to everyone, right? You can sell to everyone, but you can't market to everyone because we have limited money. We don't have $1 million per se. Call me if you do. So we need to figure out who that ideal client is, so we're only targeting them. We don't need to waste money on anyone else. So who's your ideal customer? What problem do you help them with? And how can you help them solve it? So figuring out who that exact person is. And stop wasting money on advertising to people that may not be interested in your product or service. Look at your top clients and find lookalikes for them. I just threw this in here. We do this in our workshop for people that haven't done an event before to figure out who their ideal client is. So we stop saying, oh, everybody can come. So my ideal client is whom, of what type of company, age range, family status, where do they live, right? Are we just targeting people in Hampton Roads? Are we targeting people outside of Hampton Roads? What does their play look like, right? What social activities, groups are they a part of? And what's their pain point? And how do we relieve that pain? And then we have them name it. So we can use that avatar. You know, you've seen all that sort of stuff, the avatars and things like that. I can't stress this enough. You have to make sure that you're inviting the ideal client. You don't want just anyone at your event. You're wasting money if you do that. Even on virtual, you need to be specific about who you're inviting. So this takes us into messaging. And this is what we were talking about earlier about put all of it out there. You can't say too much. Make sure that you're extremely clear about what that person is going to get by attending your event. There shouldn't be any questions. All right, now we need to promote our event. We do whole workshops on this, so I'm just gonna touch on this briefly. Obviously our social media. Also, if we know that ideal client, and this is why ideal client is so important, then we know where they are, right? So I said, where do they play? Do they play on social media or do they play offline, right? Do we need to put a newspaper ad together to reach those specific people? What does their life look like? You know, so here's a number of different ways that we can reach people. I'm a fan of digital. So retargeting has worked really well. Pay-per-click, we're not doing too much of that anymore, but retargeting is big. Of course, your Google AdWords is, I guess that's kind of pay-per-click too. So I've seen a lot of experimentation here, but a lot of social media advertising is kind of like the new shiny thing. So we're seeing a lot of that in different ways. There's a lot of algorithms that have changed recently, especially with retargeting and behavioral targeting. So just kind of keep abreast of that. There's lots and lots of options of targeting people. So we give Google, you know, we're the product with Facebook and Google and things, right? So they have that information for everyone. So they have that detailed information. So we're able to utilize that and target the people that will be most susceptible to our messages. All right, briefly. So before your event, this is just kind of like our typical things. Marketing, figure out your marketing, choosing your platform, whether that's virtual or in person. That's your venue, right? Platform would be virtually, your venue would be in person, obviously. Getting sponsorship, all this before your event. So who wants to get in front of the same people you want to get in front of? Those eyeballs, that's what you're selling. So for your sponsorship, budgeting, how much do you really have to spend on an event? Look at events just like you would look at buying a radio ad, a TV ad, a billboard, whatever, however you market. So look at your budget and allot some of that budget to events. The date and time. If you are in a specific industry that has a lot of events going on, don't put your event at that same time. Find where there's a dark period and you infiltrate that period, and then you have that season. If everybody is doing it in the summer, do it in, you know, mid-January when there's not a lot of events going on. So don't give yourself unneeded competition. Registration is a big one. Figure out how you're going to get these people to register, because you want to collect the correct information so that you can follow up with them in the future, right? So think about that as well. It can't just be like free for all, just whoever wants to come comes. You need to know who's going to be there so that you can tailor your information to them. During the event, your registration check-ins, sometimes if we haven't asked for specific information, we can ask for it here. Letting people know where everything is, where the lavatory is. This is something that your event concierge will do when you have it virtually. So when they come into your virtual lobby, your event concierge will greet those participants and show them around, right? So that they're familiar with, here's the exhibit hall, here's the sponsor rooms. Do you have any questions? Let me help you with any technology. Here's how you download this file, et cetera, et cetera. Also with this, just to be clear, with virtual events, if you have a lot of people, you're going to need to segment them into when they register. You don't want 300 people showing up all at the same time to register. So actually Meeting Play does it really nice. They say a boarding pass. So you get a boarding number with a time. So you're in A5 and you register, you come into your virtual lobby between, you know, 11 or that's too late, 8 and 8:30, you know, in the morning, and that's your check-in time. So now you're going around with your event concierge at that time. Somebody else's boarding pass may be B22 and they go in at a certain time as well, right? So that everybody is able to ask their questions and get acclimated to how the event is going to go. Lead capture, make sure you're taking the information that you need at registration. This is where surveys and polls can come in as well if you need to capture any more information. Entertainment is fun, and don't be amiss. You can still do entertainment on virtual events. One of our partners, they did a surprise like concert. right? So the attendees to this conference did not know that it wasn't even on the agenda, but they did a surprise like half-hour concert to their attendees. And the fun thing was that it was a popular band and they didn't have a playlist. They just went by what people put in the chat. What do we want to hear from this cool band that we didn't even know was going to be here? And people were putting in the chat, and then the person that was monitoring the chat always have that monitor as well, just like you would have in one of your breakout rooms. You have a room monitor. You have to have a chat room monitor, right? And they put what they wanted in there, and then the popular vote was the next song that they played. So it was really fun and interactive, and it was entertainment. It was a surprise. So think of those things as well. Be creative. Determine your setup, share with others. Don't be shy on social media, something that I need to get better about. And then record so you can play back later. And then after your event, make sure you evaluate. What can we do better? What did we do? And then the big thing here is the follow-up. And don't wait till after the event to come up with your follow-up strategy. That should be worked on before the event. You need to know how you're going to follow up with these people. You already know who the people are. You know that they're ideal for you. So you need to know how you're going to follow up with them. Is it a series of emails? Write that months in advance. You know you're going to have the event. No need to wait last minute. And then over communicate with your attendees. Tell them thank you for coming. If there's surveys that you want them to fill out, things like that, make sure you do that. So one of the things that executive events does, we don't like doing too much like just one-off events. We like to work with a company to create an event calendar. So looking at and this is where your marketing mix comes in, right? So you're doing all these things for your marketing, and here's where events fit in. So we create an event calendar. So every quarter you're doing an event. Every other month you're doing an event. Maybe it's only once a year, right? Maybe it's a big conference and it's only once a year. So figuring out what that event calendar looks like. So identifying that audience. Maybe you'll have some events for brand new people that are in the consideration phase, and you'll have a different event for someone who is to keep them as a loyal customer, right? So think of that attendee mix as well, and the different type of mix of events. Make sure your message is good and you're targeting that ideal person. So you're talking directly to that ideal customer. So your messaging resonates with them. And then don't forget your follow-up strategy. All right, we're at our Q&A portion. So basically we went through, have a clear objective, know what your goals are for having an event. Like how you run an ad in the paper, or you put a radio spot on and you say, I want this from this advertising platform or method. Same thing with events. Make sure you're tracking the people that are interested. If someone is interested and didn't attend, that's still a lead, still follow up with them. So have a clear objective. What does success look like? Determine your ideal customer. Get the event type that works best for them, that education, that networking. Do they want to have fun? Is it a happy hour? What do they want to experience? Make sure you're promoting your event and engaging with the people that attend and the people that want to attend. And then make sure that you're capturing information from those leads and then implementing your follow-up strategy. All right, guys, what questions do we have about virtual events? Heather or Christina, let me know what's in the chat if anyone has questions.
I just unmuted, if that's cool.
Yeah, perfect.
So, one of the things that I like about the virtual events is that, frankly, they're shorter. So instead of spending, a full 8 hours, or maybe in reality 6 to 7 hours at an event, but then, the commuting and all the time that is associated with it, like you said, you can boil it down to like 3 hours. Mm-hmm. But the downside is you don't get those like impromptu hallway chats. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you talked about like the virtual lobby in the beginning, which I thought was a good idea. Lots of good ideas. Are there any ways of like kind of like virtually having that hallway chat?
Like simulating the elbow bump.
Yeah, where you just kind of like walk into the bathroom and you're like, oh, hey, and you see this person walk in with you and you start chatting,
Who are you? Yeah, so the way that we do that is with your breakout rooms and your virtual like lobby in the beginning. So if you come early, you can see other participants, you can start chatting with them. But the biggest way that we've seen that utilized is with the breakout rooms. So if you're in a good breakout room and you're in a breakout room with not a lot of people, right? So it can't be a breakout room with 20 people. That's not going to work, right? Breakout rooms need to be 6 people and under, potentially. And that's if you're targeting it. So you know what type of group is in the breakout room, and then you can kind of have those one-off conversations. I've had moderators in the breakout room, so we'll say, okay, go to the breakout room, and this is specifically what we're going to talk about. But setting up a breakout room to be maybe like a lounge or kind of like a lobby, you could do that as well. So go to the virtual lobby, and it's just, you know, it's just taking a break. You can go in the virtual lobby and see who's in there. So it would be technically a breakout room, but you can just title it as virtual lobby.
Virtual lobby. That's a good
and
idea.
People can pop in and out of the virtual lobby throughout the event and during breaks and things like that.
Well, you also talked about like different parts of the lobby too. Would those be breakout rooms basically?
Yeah, technically, yes, but we don't like to call it that.
Yeah.
One thing you have to sound fancy, Eric.
Yeah, Deany, one thing that we have also found is that you can set up like structured networking hours during the day with some like round tables. You know how we kind of do the marketing anonymous lunches as a certain specific speaker and stuff. You can have like certain round tables that are going to be discussing certain things, and then you can invite your attendees to attend those different roundtables, and that can be during a break type thing.
Yeah. So Eric, to your questions, I like structure, right? So I want to say, and just like what Heather was saying, like we want to say this roundtable is to discuss this XYZ thing. Now, if people go off topic and it's in a positive way, then you let them go, sort of thing. So yes, a virtual lobby. What we deem a virtual lobby would be kind of like the place where there's no structure, but everything else needs to be structured.
Yeah, gotcha. And that seems to be a really nice feature of Zoom, which I just haven't, I mean, I'm sure it's in the other platforms. I just haven't seen it before. I've only seen it in Zoom, the breakout rooms. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Zoom does it well, and you can mix up your attendees and things like that. If you mix them up randomly through Zoom and you see that somebody doesn't need to be in a certain room, you could take them out and put them in a different room. So like if it's like 2 people from the same company and you know they need to be split up, you can move them even if you put the random one on for your breakouts. So there's some options.
Cool. Hey, slightly different topic. I'm a speaker for a conference that's coming up in a couple of weeks, and I was accepted as a speaker before COVID hit, and then when COVID hit, they're like, hey, we're working through going virtual. And the way that they did it is they asked us to pre-record our talks, and they're going to like stream them live on YouTube. But then as a speaker, I'll be available to answer questions somewhere. I don't know where. Seemed like an interesting / weird way of doing it. Like the pre-recorded aspect, I would think that a live speaker would definitely do better for the audience.
Yeah, and this depends on your event technology. They may want it recorded so it's easier on them, so then they have it all there and they can just play it. So it just depends on the group.
Yeah.
You know. A live speaker is the number one choice. It's ideal because like we have technology where, like, say how I'm seeing you guys on your little Brady Brunch grid right now, where the speaker, as they're talking, they can see the people respond to what they're saying. So now you're shaking your head, right? I can see that. So as a speaker, if I see a bunch of head bobbing, I know that, okay, maybe I can expound upon that a little bit more, right? Versus if I'm recorded, I can't feed off my audience. And I think that that's where we get into that nonverbal communication, which is what, like 70% of communication. And so you kind of feed off of that. You know, performers do that. If you're a singer, you do that. You like all stage, you know, people kind of do that. So Live is ideal, but you know, it depends on what you can do technologically wise, based on the platform you're using and your company. So.
Yeah, and I would say even like live participation, right? So like you benefited from seeing me shake my head as you were speaking, right? So as a speaker, me as the participant, it was beneficial for you, but then also for me because I got that feedback loop.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have my camera on, which you know, some people tend to do, and like certainly in the bigger groups,
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're talking to a wall, you know?
Right, exactly, exactly, and that's not as fun.
But I guess as the host, you should really encourage people somehow, maybe with the gamification, to enable their camera or make it a requirement to attend. You know?
Yeah, and we've told people to be prepared to have your camera on.
Yeah.
So some people just now that we're taking advantage of working from home, it's like, oh, I don't need to do anything. I can just listen in, you know, be that passive passive participant. But we've had to say to them in advance when we give them instructions for the event, please be prepared to have your camera on.
Good
and
call.
Then they know that they need to at least put on, you know, a proper shirt and they can wear their pajama bottoms, but we're going to be looking at them, you know. So
Who would ever do that? Pajama bottoms?
I don't know.
You can do a contest for like the best virtual background or the best home office, or I mean, if it's a small group.
Yeah, I like that. The gamification's cool.
Yeah. What other questions? Were there any questions in the chat?
No.
Okay, cool. Christina, back to you, I suppose. Thank you guys for joining. Right now, executive events, we're doing free 30-minute consultations. So if there is an event that you're thinking about doing, we'd love to chat with you. Here's our information on the screen. You can go to our website. It's assistmyevent.com. You can always find us on social media, Deany Dormer on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and that's about it. And so, yes, definitely take advantage, or if you know of someone who may be interested in mixing up their marketing a bit, or someone who has an in-person event who could benefit from making it virtual, definitely let us know. We find it fascinating and really fun to be creative and use events for lead generation and business purposes. So would love to talk to anyone that you know of to give them a consult of what they can possibly do.
Thanks, Deany and Heather.
Thank you so much, Deany.
All right.